or I should say mostly STEM, even business has it, but STEM students get the opportunity to do research from their first year onwards. You spend at least 3 to 4 years doing research. I had 5 students who worked under me as my mentees, and that is how I learned to mentor students. Okay, so that answers your question. What else? A global perspective, because you meet students from all over the world. You're living in a dorm, right? You get exposed to culture. Practical approach. I'm going to tell you, okay, let me ask you. You want to study a forest ecosystem, okay? Let's assume you want to study it. How are you going to learn? Sorry?
You go there?
You go there, right? I had a bunch of students actually, 35 of them, and I was thinking we're just going to be talking about it and they'll get the picture. But no, we were trained. The previous day, our coordinators took us to that particular forest, and then they taught us how to teach them how to make realistic notes about the place. So when they're actually writing their exams, they're not thinking about what page number, when did I study this, what was that, what are the keywords that remind me, no. They're actually coding from experience. That's the most strongest memory builder, okay? So it's a lot of practical approach. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, co-ops and internships. You have the opportunity to work on campus when you're studying in US or in Canada. The difference is in the US you only get 20 hours a week, but only on campus. You cannot work outside campus. In Canada you can work anywhere, any field, doesn't matter. Okay, that's like one of the factors. Like I said, not just academics, you can be part of clubs, you can be part of any organization you want, as long as you can balance it. Global perspective, we discussed this. Next slide, please. Is it copied onto the system or is it, okay. All right, I'm gonna jump to what do you need to do, right? Where do you start? First things first, talk to your inner circle. Tell them of your ideas. Tell them that you wanna go. They need to know because they're gonna support you. Go back, go back. Oh, one step further. Okay, let's go here. Yeah, let's stay here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over the steps first, and then let's look at the differences between applying to US and Canada, because that's important. First things first, talk to your inner circle. Talk to your teachers. Talk to your counselors. Your teachers and counselors play a very important role in your case or in anybody else's case, because you need to get what from them? Recommendation letters, right? They're the ones who know you best in a particular subject, in a particular a trait, an extracurricular activity that you're doing. So if you're not in, if you're not so, not pally with your teacher, just get to know them, help them get to know you if you're in that process. You need to give them enough time to write that recommendation letter. They can't just give it to you in like a week's time. Because if you want a competitive application, you need to have the time, or you need to give your teachers the time to actually put in a competitive recommendation letter. Okay? And we have sort of devised a system wherein we have a questionnaire that you can answer for us, and then we can work with the teacher concerned to help them put out the best recommendation letter for you. Okay? So it's a detailed questionnaire that we want from you to understand what your strengths are, what are your characteristics, what are your activities, how much time you spend on each of them. So we go into the details, and then we work with your teacher or your counselor to help them come up with a really good recommendation letter for you, because that is a deal breaker. Okay? The next thing you need to do is shortlist universities. How do you shortlist universities? US has more than 4,500 accredited colleges and universities. It is a huge number. How are you going to shortlist it? Any ideas? Sorry? Courses are a good criteria. What else? Almost all universities have all courses. What else? your scores. Academic scores, your standardized test scores, right? Your SAT or ACT scores. How many of us know what that stands for? SAT?
SAT does not have full form.
Scholastic Aptitude Test. SAT. Okay? So it does have a full form. It's alright if you don't know it. As long as you know what it is about, that's all that matters. So SAT or ACT for the US. For Canada, you don't need it. It's mostly optional. Okay? You do need to take the IELTS, but sometimes, depending on your curriculum, they can waive it for you. So you might not have to take the IELTS either. So think about it. If you're actually going to apply to Canada, and you don't have to take the English exam, all you need to do is focus on your application. So your timeline changes if it is Canada, but if it is the US, then you start a little earlier. Okay? Standardized tests. Next step. So what are the other criteria? We said academics, we said standardized tests. How else can you categorize universities? How good they are? How do you find that out? Don't go by rankings. Okay? I'm here to bust that myth. Rankings are not everything. It is a marketing gimmick. Okay? You need to really dig deep and find out what exactly is that university doing. So if you're interested in AI and you're looking only at, what do you guys know?
MIT.
MIT, right? If you're only looking at MIT, then you're actually stopping yourself. You're limiting yourself from looking at so many other universities that actually have it, right? And in fact, as a statistic, 80% of international students only apply to 15% of the universities in US and Canada. That is a known statistic, right? What about the other universities? They have funding, they have good opportunities too, they have research scholarships too, right? Ivy Leagues are great, I'm not saying they're not, but I'm also saying there are other opportunities. You need to keep yourself a little more open so that you don't miss out on certain opportunities, okay? So don't go by the ranking system. That's my humble request. If anything you take away from this, take that. Okay? Next, what else? What are the other criteria? Scholarship opportunities, that's an amazing thing. So if you're going to a state-funded school, the tuition fee is supposed to be a little lesser, but they also have scholarship opportunities. But a private school, the fee is a little higher, but they also have scholarship opportunities. So what I'm trying to tell you is either or is fine. It depends on what your affordability is, for which you need to discuss it with your parents or whoever is funding you. Okay, so your inner circle, remember that. What else? What are the other criteria?
Safety. Location.
Location. Yes, that's important, right? You want to find something that really works for you. I had a student who used to have a breathing problem and had a pollen allergy. So she couldn't stay in places where that was high. So she had to take that into consideration when she was looking at universities. So if you have a personal reason why you don't want to go to certain places, that is a good point to have, okay? All right, so those are some of the criteria that you can use for shortlisting universities. We have a bunch more, and sometimes not everybody thinks of it. Sometimes it is a criteria that your parents need to decide on, right? Most of the criteria are yours, but your parents are the ones who are going through the stress of sending you there and not knowing what's happening. They're in a different situation. So we need to talk to you and your parents to understand what exactly they want for you. And then put it together with what you want. And then come up with something that works for both of you. That's why we're here, okay? All right, so shortlist universities, write your application essays, right? That's a big portion which takes a lot of time after shortlisting. Application essays are the ones that take the most time. And we're gonna go deep into that as a workshop. But for those of you who are not here for the workshop, don't worry about it. I have already spoken to the management and your counselor. We can always do online sessions later when you're ready, maybe in the 11th grade, and then that will prep you for it, okay? So if you're a 10th grader and if you have to leave in a little bit, don't worry about it. We'll definitely give you that opportunity. The idea is to help you throughout the process, not just give you one workshop and then disappear. No, we're not like that, okay? application essays form the qualitative component of your application package. They know you quantitatively. What are your scores? What are the list of activities you do? But who are you, right? Who tells them that?
SOP.
Your SOP or your statement of purpose, more
Essay.
commonly called the personal statement, your essay is your qualitative, okay? They gauge how you think based on the essay, right? What else? What else forms the qualitative component?
Extracurricular achievement.
Quantitative. Qualitative.
The letter recommendation?
The letter recommendation. So your teachers, your counselors are the ones who are going to tell them who you are in class, right? Are you the one that is a leader? Are you the one that is a team worker, like someone who really does teamwork and believes in it? Are you someone who's passionate about social change? Those are the kind of things that your teacher can actually say. And this is any teacher, okay? You get your recommendation letters from, one is from the counselor and you need two from your teachers. So it is up to you to pick the teacher that you want to give you a recommendation letter. And that goes back to what relationship you have with the teacher, the subject that the teacher teaches you, and so on and so forth. We also have criteria for you to help you decide which teacher might be better for you to take a recommendation letter from. So application essays, recommendation letters, and then what? Keep a track of the deadlines, right? We have different kind of deadlines. There's rolling deadlines, which means there's no set date. Throughout the year, the university accepts applications. And then there's something called regular deadlines, which is what we all know. December 15th is the deadline, so we need to submit before then, okay? Early deadlines. There are two kinds of early deadlines. Anyone who knows these two? Okay, one is early action. The other one is early decision. Okay, one is not binding, one is binding. Does everyone understand that? Let me tell you. So early action is when you want the committee to review your application early enough